Good evening. Welcome back to the Formula PlayStation League 1 week. A problematic Sony update. Over 6,000 miles from our last destination in Monza. Round number 2 of Season 6 has brought us to the 5-kilometre Marina Bay Street Circuit for the Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. After a 17-place overhaul in Italy last time in round 1, Decinio will be hoping the victory here is a little easier to come by than it was last week. But Champion Nuth's return and an extremely challenging racetrack poses a threat to those prospects. My name is Rob Kershaw. I'll be your host over the course of the next roughly 90 minutes or so as our drivers embark on a short qualifying session followed by a 50% Grand Prix at a Singapore circuit that made its debut in 2008, became the first ever racetrack to host a night race in Formula 1, and it was also the 800th World Championship Grand Prix in the F1 series, full of controversy too. Nelson Piquet being told by Renault to deliberately crash out of the Grand Prix to allow the safety car to benefit Fernando Alonso, who lo and behold won the Grand Prix. Hopefully, fingers crossed, real controversy to ensue here, but plenty of drama expected at a very hard street circuit, which can and will catch many drivers out. It's quite on the level of Monaco, but certainly very, very close. 18 drivers with us then tonight, and which one of them will come out on top? It was an interesting race, really, in Italy. Quite a few of our drivers, certainly some of the front runners, hitting some problems over the course of the Grand Prix. Pache, it's worth noting, due to his retirement from the Grand Prix, or due to an incident that led to it, has had a race ban. So he's not with us tonight. He is banned from round number 2 for deliberately taking out Casu in the middle of an incident on the exit of turn 2 in Monza. And Fashion also has a qualifying ban for this evening's Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. Other than that, though, it is 17 drivers battling it out for pole position here at Marina Bay, which is predominantly a street track. It's only really the last bit of the circuit down the home straight that is purpose-built. It joins Vietnam and Canada on the current race calendar to feature both elements of a street circuit as well as elements of an actual racetrack. There's Buttons back, one of the retirements early on. Well, not early on, kind of halfway through the race, really, in the Italian Grand Prix last time out. Out-qualified his teammate Decinio, who, of course, from P18 on the grid, went on to win the race in quite remarkable... a stunning show of some of the most exciting league racing you could possibly wish to witness. And hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that here this evening in round number 2 of Season 6. There is Cobalt, retired very early on in the Italian Grand Prix. Was well, he had a bit of contact on the exit of turn 2 going into 3, and that put him in the wall and out of the Grand Prix after an impressive qualifying as well, hoping to do so here, and hoping then that no bad luck is to befall him as a result. Lord Lamb is just in front. There he is. And again, had a pretty impressive qualifying and was running right up the order until the second safety car halted his progress, and unfortunately for him, he fell down the order. But credit to him, kept fighting all the way to the finish. Did Alam. Can he secure a point this time around? Well, we talked about safety cars just there. We've had 20 safety cars in 12 races in Singapore in Formula 1. So I certainly wouldn't rule that out here this evening as Alarm exits turn 13. And down towards 15 he comes. A pretty short braking zone compared to what it was before. Slightly loses the back end, but manages to keep it all together. And provided he can keep the car on the track and out of the barriers, then Alam will be the first driver to set a lap time here in qualifying. That's a Haas in the wall by the looks of it. Oh, who's that? Was that Vapor King who's just put his car in the wall? It was indeed. So Vapor King Crier has lost front wing because I believe he was running that up anyway. And across the line, and it is a 1:36.1 for the first lap time of the session. There's Cobalt on the medium tyres, I should add, with a 1:36.2. Reese beats that, the pole sitter last time in Monza. 1:35.3 to quite comfortably move clear of Lord Alam, but we will have more of the big hitters, including our current champion Vapor Nuth, who has had his lap invalidated, and will have to go round again. Wasn't with us for round number 1 in Italy, Vapor Nuth. It's a shame for him. He would have, I'm sure, loved to be part of the carnage that ensued over the 27 laps, but with us here for round number 2 and hoping for a race victory to get his Season 6 campaign underway and successfully defend his World Championship title. And of course, the leader is Decenio after the frantic Grand Prix in round number 1. As I say, it was, as buttons back goes Peter. There was quite a few drivers who really struggled and really suffered. Vapor King was one. Kasu, Trixky had a bit of a nightmare of a race, really, by all accounts. Just a few drivers really struggling to score points. And Reese as well, who took pole, as Vapor King has, Sam has his lap invalidated. Yeah, quite a few of those drivers will be aiming this time to just improve on that bad luck. Reese, I was going to make that point before I made another point and forgot. Reese took pole in Italy, but once again, and I mentioned it in Italy, I mentioned it before in Season 5, I mentioned it again now in Singapore. He qualifies so well, and he out-qualified his Ferrari teammate Bazooka Joe last season every single time that race, but was only able to outrace him on 2 occasions. Such was the bad luck that always seemed to befall him. As Vapor Trench goes P3, 1:36.0. Reese at the moment hanging on to P1, and hopefully for him will be able to convert it into a victory if he does manage to put himself into that first grid slot for the Grand Prix. Bit of a traffic jam going on, bit of a car park as Vapor Nuth exits and in towards his final couple of corners. This is where Sam had his lap invalidated last. Vapor Nuth goes through there pretty well, traverses very, very tough turning team, which has certainly caught a few drivers out. Many drivers have ended up in the wall there over years, but manages to get through unscathed and round the final corner. It looks as though he's backed out of the lap. Actually, Vapor Nuth, he has indeed, which is why it's only at 1:37.5. Jack Prentice, 1:38.0, has clearly had some dramas somewhere, I believe, as well. He's out there in a minute, but has backed out of this lap. Decenio, the race winner last time, on out lap now in the Mercedes. And it was extensive campaign in Season 5 for Decenio. 6 podiums, 2 of those were victories, en route to being the Division 2 champion, beating Elian to that feat. Elian, who is not with us this evening. In fact, he is with us this evening. My eyes deceive me once again. Elian is with us this evening. He again, Elian, another one who qualified well, but once again some dramas under the safety car pushed him back. It was very much a case of Elian and Alam being in pretty good positions under the safety car and at the start of the race as well, but falling back, and Decenio qualifying right the way down the order, but ended up at the other end of the field. Alam was third in the Division 2 podiums to his name, no victories. Elian took the 1 win, also with 3 podiums actually. So yeah, just those, well, double the amount of podiums, and of course 2 victories for Decenio that defined a wonderful Division 2 campaign last season. As into turn 1 he goes, hoping to, well, I would say not qualify last, but I'm sure he'll be setting his sights a little higher than just that. Currently on the soft compound tyre, only Cobalt Has got on the mediums thus far. But as you can see on the tower on the left, we still have a number of drivers left to complete a lap. TDB's just gone quick as 1:34.8 from the Renault driver to knock Reese off of pole position early on, and by half a second as well. So that's a great lap from TDB. And can he steal pole here? So of course a pretty long lap. It's a big lap time, so there's plenty of opportunities to gain and lose time, but of course there's mainly chances to lose time. Really very difficult to make the time back up if you do lose it. However, this is a street track, it is always unpredictable, and there will be just the odd drivers able to brake a little bit later into certain corners and take a bit more speed and take a bit of a different line. It's the beauty of a street track as Decenio goes ever so slightly wide but manages to keep hold of his Mercedes in towards this final sector. Through turn 18, manages to avoid the barrier. Always a good thing to do if you want to set a good lap time. And towards this final chicane as he launches now down towards 122. Around the final comes Decenio across the line for him. P3, 135.7 to slot ahead of his teammate Buttons back by actually just under a tenth of a second. That's a really close call between those two. There's Sam. He's had to abort one run because it was invalidated, and he's now going around again into the final sector for him. Worth noting that Nuth is still in the pits, having had a couple of failed attempts really at setting a lap time. He has put a lap time on the board, but it was one that he backed out of, so only P10. And of course Sam here is going to set a lap, and he'll probably go quicker. Cobalt's got up to P3 meanwhile, and Sam across the line to go P7, 136.0. Elian on a lap as well as he just approaches the final sector in the Ferrari. Through turn 18, much further away from the barrier that time. Again, you'll just see that slight variation in we'll just aim to keep it tidier as into the pits comes Elian, so backing out of that lap, and still no lap time on the board. Here's TRT James standing in for this evening, tires as well in the Racing Point. James featured of times last season, in fact 4 times I should say, specifically in Division 1 as P14, 152.7. So on the mediums, some time has clearly been lost somewhere by the Racing Point. He'll certainly have to go around and set another lap. 4 races last season, but only 1 points finished, 3 DNFs unfortunately for James. But having said that, he out-qualified his teammate every single time he raced, and that was Brown he was with when he jumped into the Alpha Tauri to occasionally replace Allsoppy. And that's him P14, and certainly hoping for some better fortunes on his next run. There's Reese in the Williams, set for a front row start. Can he grab pole though? Well, interesting to note that of the 12 races here have been won pole position. There's been 4 from outside the front row, and those of you who are much more at maths than I am will have already worked out that means that there's no victories from second on the grid. So being second is really not the best omen. It's either pole or not second, essentially, for the victory. But you just never know. It just goes to show how unpredictable the races are in Singapore with safety cars and potential weather. As we saw in 2017, how the rain played havoc with the opening laps of the Grand Prix. With just under 5 minutes to go, it's TDB on provisional pole for the Singapore Grand Prix. Well, thanks very much to those who have joined us this evening. And as you've just seen, TRT James on the medium tyres up to P3 in his reserve for the band Paget, and making an extraordinary account of himself here in the early going of this Grand Prix weekend. It just makes you wonder how come TRT James isn't in the league more often. 4 races last season, always performed well until some sort of gremlin put him out of the Grand Prix, and up to P3 in qualifying now. And that's on the mediums too, so that's definitely going to raise a few eyebrows amongst some of the drivers around him. And just thinking, how on earth has he done that? DeSenior's gone back out onto the soft tyres. He's P6. His teammate Buttons back is in 7th place. There he is, on a lap at the moment into the final sector, but aborted by a bit. Sam is out there as well. Alfa Romeo, as is Stefanio, and of course what that means is both the Racing Point drivers, or the first team Racing Point drivers, not with us this evening. Greeny would ordinarily be the Racing Point driver, but Stefanio's standing in the Racing Point car. Robbie says go DeSenio. DeSenio had quite a few fans actually in Italy, and he's clearly got one here as well. And do let me know in the comments who you think is going to win this Grand Prix. DeSenio, the winner last time, down in P13, the world champ, moment struggling to put a lap in the Ferrari. So who's going to win here, and who do you think will come out on top of the course of the World Championship this season? Interesting to note as well, Nuth has gone out on the medium compound of tyre. So he aborted the run before on the softs, but has decided here that he can set this lap on the mediums. The scenes if he takes pole. Can he do that? We're about to find out, because there's just under 2 minutes to go here in qualifying. Can TDB hang on for pole? Can Reese take 2 poles out of 2 to start season 6? TRT James is retired from the session, as has Bazooka Joe, so those two aren't going to be making a bid for pole. Can Cobalt or DeSenio or Buttons back claim the front grid slot for the race? Nuth has just run a little bit wide through turn 13. It's going to cost him slightly as 3:14 he goes on the exit. And can the Ferrari driver, in his first appearance in season 6, put a pole position run together here? If he's going to do it, he's going to have to be on the medium compound tyres, which really would be an impressive run indeed from the Ferrari, as in towards these final few corners. Runs it in towards the chicane of 19 and 20 as he rides the curb down towards 21 and 22. Around these final couple of turns and across the line for Nuth. P4, 135.3 for the Ferrari. Not quite enough for the top 3, but on medium tyres is an impressive run from our world champion. But at the minute, it's still TDB out in front. Reese has gone out in the Williams. Oh, and he's validated his lap, so that is his bid for pole over. Nuth, well, he crossed the line with enough time to go, so whether he'll go again, I'm not too sure. Cobalt is out there as well, and the other Williams looking to set a lap. The American in towards the final few corners. Can he get into that top 3? He's currently sandwich in between. Well, it's one of 2 drivers in the sandwich between the 2 Mercedes cars. As here comes Cobalt across the line. P4 displaces Nuth. Nuth now down to 5th. What about Buttons back? Can't improve. It's because he's invalidated his lap, that's why. And DeSenio has backed out of his lap as well. Trixky is out there in the Red Bull. Can he pull off a bit of a shock? No, doesn't look like it, because looks as though he's backed out of his run as well. TDB is still out there in the Renault. Probably at this point doesn't even need to set a lap, but he's going to anyway. As in towards turn 10. And well, actually, yeah, it's been a little bit, as Lord of Lamb goes P5. It's been a bit of an anti-climax of a qualifying session due to just runs being invalidated, drivers backing out of the laps. But TDB set a wonderful lap early. Looks set here as he sets a purple middle sector. His current lap time as in towards the final few corners he comes, as underneath the bridge And in now towards these final few corners of the lap, round the chicane. And the last two corners where drivers have been swinging it into the two lefts all evening long so far, and across the line for TDB, does improve, 134.0, secures pole for the Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. It's a wonderful effort from the Renault driver. Cobalt in the Williams backed out of that lap as well, and TDB with an absolutely superb effort takes his second pole in as many seasons in the Formula PlayStation League. Took one last season, he's taken one now in round number 2 of season 6. An excellent job from the Renault driver, and for him the perfect way to start off what is still going to be a very, very challenging race in Singapore. But it's TDB, your pole sitter for round number 2. So it is TDB on pole. Reese rounding out the front row, 7/10 behind him in the end. TRT James in P3 for Racing Point. Impressive effort from the stand-in. Cobalt P4, Lord Alarm 5th. Nuth, the world champion, in 6th for Ferrari. Bazooka Joe in 7th. Decenio P8. Fashion 9th. Trixie 11th. Buttons back in 12th in the end. Vapor Trench in 13th. Ellie in 14th. Stefanio in 15th. Jack Prentice P16 for AlphaTauri on the mediums. Vapor King and Kasu not setting lap times because both of them, I believe, I know Fashion was, I think Vapor King might have been as well, carrying qualifying bans for Singapore. So that is your grid. 8 times from pole. The winner has won. Will that ring true here? Or will the 4 wins from outside the front row be added to here? Or will there be a win from second on the grid? You just never know in Singapore, especially with the safety cars that are surely going to ensue. Maybe I've put the commentator's curse on that one. But it's always an extraordinary race in Singapore. Never really a dull moment. Think back to 2017, of course, the wet race when the two Raikkonen and Vettel crashed with Max Verstappen. 2016, Rosberg's chase with Daniel Ricciardo. Rosberg just about holding on for the race victory. Of course, the controversial race of 2008, Lewis Hamilton taking the first of his Singapore Grand Prix victories in 2009 with McLaren. The only race he won with the base team here. As we get underway on the formation lap. Singapore was, well, it was really a brilliant idea as it passes underneath the flyovers, the numerous flyovers around the streets. Takes a fair bit of planning and a fair bit of lights, a fair few lights as well, over 1,000 floodlights covering the circuit, making sure that the drivers can see where they're going. It's always useful, especially during a night race. And in 2008 made his debut as the F1 night race. The only one at the time. It was followed pretty swiftly by Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, making its night race debut in 2014. And some of the beautiful skyscrapers and the fantastic lanterns that surround the circuit. Of course, the Marina Bay as well, the harbour just alongside us. Always pristine and beautiful as ever. And this floodlit circuit hopefully will provide us with more magnificent memories, as Italy did. And league racing is particularly crazy at the best of times. That a circuit like this, you would expect it to be even more so. TDB in towards this grandstand, which the drivers go underneath. It's almost a little bit like Abu Dhabi in a sense, as it just passes underneath part of the complex that makes up the race circuit. And it's really a beautiful place to go racing, beautiful place to visit Singapore, if you ever can do. TDB lines up on the grid. Fairly quick formation lap, actually. TDB going round pretty quickly. Of course, you don't want to get too much heat into the tyres from the start of the formation lap to the end of it, because this is already a naturally very hot racetrack where the tyres are going to suffer. So expect certainly more than a one-stop strategy to be at play here over the next 31 laps of racing. It's going to be hard work for the drivers, that is for sure. 154 kilometres of racing ahead of us. At the end of it, who's going to come out on top? Grand Prix, round number 2 of season. It's underway. It's a good start for the cover off reaching the inside. Trying to go back. Nuth makes it as well. But I think they get away with it. Nuth with a bit of a crazy move, but managing to survive as he gets passed by Lord Alam, and the safety car is deployed already because Buttons Back is out of the Grand Prix. And there it is. So we said safety cars can play a part, and it already has done. We already have a safety car, and Buttons Back has made the worst possible start to Season 6. He crashed out of the Italian Grand Prix. He crashed out of the Singapore Grand Prix. No points for him from the opening 2 races, and once again, these hopes of points rest on the shoulders of Decenio, who is still P8. Nuth got away with that move down the inside of Cobalt. And Cobalt still P5, Nuth still P6, with Lord Alarm ahead of them in 4th place. Really impressive qualifying from the McLaren driver, and holding on to that position with James. He was threatening, wasn't he? He was just trying to get along towards turn 1, but has to hold on to P3. But other than that, a fairly clean start in amongst most of the drivers, except, of course, Buttons Back has... he has ended up as our first casualty of the Grand Prix so far, which has given us a very early safety car. Of course, you shouldn't expect any pit stops this early in the Grand Prix. It would have no strategical advantage to the drivers, but it has just meant that TDB's chances of bolting away from Reese have been decreased ever so slightly, or at least put on hold by the safety car. But it's the perfect start from him. Got into turn 1 ahead. And it was the chaos that ensued behind him that has bored out. Safety car, and Reese is into the pits for Williams. Very interesting decision from Reese. And what's he going to go on to? This will be a very interesting kind of factor in the Grand Prix as to what tyre he decides to go on to. It's the medium tyres on the car. So clearly trying to make a 2-stop work from here. And well, once again, Codemaster's doing an excellent job at the timing screens. Can't see who's where, because T. James, I can tell you, is not P1. That is still the Renault of TDB in front of him. That is intriguing. So how far into the race can Reese make those tyres go? Is going to be the question. TDB is still going on the soft tyres, meanwhile, in P1. And, well, he's probably going to try and make the 2-stop work as well. But it is naturally going to mean, for him, you would suspect that he will be... Well, he'll be on slightly older tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix. But, of course, this could all be fairly trivial anyway, to a large extent. Because it's quite unlikely that this is the only safety car we're going to have between now and the end of this. I shouldn't expect this to be the long-lasting factor in terms of pitting early. And Reese has taken the gamble. He's come in, and it's P11. And once again, always qualifying well, Reese, but somehow things go wrong for him in the Grand Prix. But he's taken this move. He's gone for this decision early under the safety car, and we'll see if it pays off for him as the race goes on. It's difficult to predict it because Singapore is just so unpredictable, and as I say, we'll undoubtedly have more safety cars to interfere. Possibly as the surprise that he hit it, or maybe just it could be a genius. Never know how it's going to pay off. Let me know. Was that a good move? Should he have stayed out, as TDB has done in the Renault, and James as well, but he's already on the medium tyres. So, yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on that one. I'd love to hear how you think that's going to play out for Reese after that early pit stop. And hopefully soon, safety car will be into the pits. Jack Prentice is coming to the pits as well in the Alpha Tauri, which, well, he's already of it running last. Is the current run is onto the soft tyres for him. Another interesting move. That's probably more of an intriguing move than Reese's pit stop onto the mediums. Once again, Arns is on a postcard, and James in P2 has just picked up a penalty for ignoring yellow flags. I know I've always it's almost just the silliest penalty you can get under safety car, because the pace is being regulated, so you almost have no cause to go quick enough or take a line weird enough that you end up picking up a penalty. It's a really, really clumsy penalty to get for James, and will it affect him come the end of the Grand Prix? Well, you just never know. We'll find out at the end, really. It's possible to tell on lap number 3. Just joined us, the safety car button is out of the Grand Prix for the second race running. It's the awful start he was probably dreading, really. Every driver dreads that, coming into a season, retiring from the opening 2 races of the season. And once again, he'll have no points from round 2, as in round 1. So that's why we've got the safety car early doors, and TDB is going to lead us away. Made a fantastic race start. Can he equal that with the safety car restart? Mailman says howdy. I don't think USA's on the calendar this year, unfortunately. It was actually a pretty good racer as well last year. So TDB just controls the pace, and he'll decide when we go. Remember, no overtaking until the start-finish line. It's not like the rules of old, where you're allowed to do so at the second safety car line. And he's bolted now in towards the final 2 corners. Lorna Lamb is, well, he's actually not as close to James as I thought he was, but James is TDB, isn't he? Nuth as well is getting in there on Cobalt in towards turn 1. Is there going to be any overtaking going on here? No, not quite. Nuth not able to get close enough to Cobalt. It wasn't close enough to Lorna Lamb. Meanwhile, behind them, the other Renault of Fashion, who's made a fantastic start for the qualifying ban, by the way. Excellent start from Fashion. Early doors all the way down in P18. And making a wonderful start up P6. I haven't even clocked that yet, as that Vapor Trench gets close to Trixie, not quite able to get ahead of the Red Bull driver just yet. But it's TDB and the Renault in control of the safety car restart. TRT James, credit to him, has really gone with the Renault on those medium tyres as well. As in towards turn 10, the old Singapore sling. Thank goodness we got rid of that. And down what will be the DRS straight, or one of the DRS straights on the track. Of course, we've just come away from the safety car, so no DRS just yet. Mailman says, is this on Twitch as well? It's not, unfortunately. I'm streaming this straight from my PS4, which won't allow me to go onto 2 platforms at once. It's much easier, really, if it's doing it from PC, but no, just on YouTube. But thank you all for joining this evening on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. DB still leading us then, as round the final corner he comes. And it's 1:39.9, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. There's Laura Lamb in P3 behind Cobalt, under enormous pressure here from Nuth, who isn't quite able to get ahead of him just yet. Fashion defending from Trixie, just ahead of Vapor Trench. And oh, there's a spin for the Haas, and the Haas is round. And who's that? It's Vapor King. Vapor King, who had contact in qualifying with the barrier, has gone round now on the exit of turn 3, broken his front wing, and quite possibly ruined his Grand Prix. Retired from the Italian Grand Prix last time out, has a dramas here now in Singapore, and finds himself out of the Singapore. Vapor Trench is now ahead of Kasu, by the way. So he's made his way past the Red Bull. What a disaster, though. Always one of the front runners in Season 5. Endured a tumultuous end, really, to the season in Season 5 last campaign. And sadly for him, it's all going wrong in the opening couple of rounds of Season 6 as well. Meanwhile, here comes Nuth. He's got a real chance now, side by side with Cobell. Tries to go round the outside of the Williams, but he overshoots, and that's going to be the chance, surely, for Trixie to get past him. They're now going to be wheel to wheel. Trixie does get it. He's got the inside, and Nuth's, well, not really overzealous overtake, just outbrakes himself a tiny bit, and now Trixie all of a sudden is side by side with Cobell down the inside of him, getting Nuth. Sticks his nose up the inside of the Williams, and Trixie there, in the space of a few corners, has picked up to P4 for him, as James gets another penalty in the Racing Point. This has been a brilliant last couple of laps for Trixie. He's past Nuth, now he's past Cobell. Nuth now gets the job done on the Williams down the inside. Does he? Can he keep it on the road this time? Yes, he can. It's a good move from the Ferrari driver. Round turn 3 they go. Cobell now under pressure from Trench, and then nearly side by side Kasu and Reese getting very close as well. Reese well, hasn't really, but he is up to P9 from the restart. And Trench now with DRS, and can he get down the inside of Cobell? Not quite. Cobell here just slightly falling down the order, has to try and stem the tide just a little bit. And Vapor King down in P16. Suction Jack now down in P17 in the pits again for AlphaTauri. So he's really struggling, and Fashion's just come into the pits as well. Thank you for those guys in the comments for letting me know that Fashion was the one who made contact with King. Cheers, guys. He's into the pits as well. Doing a great job here in the com box. TDB then, as you can see here, under a lot of pressure from James. So the medium tyres really coping well against the softs. Don't forget, though, James has picked up 2 penalties already in this Grand Prix. TDB doesn't have any yet. But this could be a fascinating battle, because if James can get past him and create a gap as TDB gets very close to the wall, then you just never know what's going to happen. You never know if he can mitigate those penalties. But as I said earlier, you would expect, as oh, Lord Alarm's losing position because he's into the pits for McLaren, you would expect there to be more safety cars between now and the end of the race. And of course, because we've just come away from the safety car, Lord Alarm is tumbling down the order as a result of this pit stop. As out of the pits he comes. Cobalt has also come in for Williams, and it's medium well onto those from the off compound tyres. Sam rounding out the points just behind Desinio, and Desinio getting very close to Bazooka Joe, who has just been passed by Reese. So Reese really doing a good job here, making his way up the field from that early pit stop. He's just got past the Alfa Romeo of Bazooka Joe. Desinio now on the back of the Ferrari. Desinio sandwiched in between the 2 Alfa Romeos. Bazooka Joe with P8 in front of him, Sam and P10 behind him. Desinio stuck in the middle in the Silver Arrow. As towards the DRS straight they come, as he takes a sweeping line in the Mercedes. And can he get the run? He's got a very good exit there, Desinio, with DRS as well on Bazooka Joe. Can he make a move? No, he's not quite close enough. This isn't as much of a braking zone as it used to be, has to be said. Elliott, as you can see, just outside the points in the Ferrari, one of the other promoters, with his teammate Vapor Nuth now up to P3 after the opening exchanges. But of course, some pit stops still to be made here and there. Look how close Desinio is now to Bazooka Joe, and if he can nail these final couple of corners, he might be able to set himself up for a run in towards turn 1. Bazooka Joe that's got a very good run himself, but Desinio now with DRS, he's got the slipstream as well. No, not quite close enough just yet into turn 1, but that move is coming. He's got to be patient, Desinio. behind the Alfa Romeo. He's almost pushing him round turn 3, so close to him. Nuth picks up a penalty, meanwhile ahead of them in the Ferrari for exceeding track limits. And TRT James has gotten ahead of TDB, so on the medium tyres, James ahead of TDB on the softs. Now, with his penalties, can James create the gap? And of course he has to kind of choose a bit of a balance here, because does he just go for broke and wear out these tyres and try to create a gap, or does he just kind of rely or assume there's going to be another safety car between now and the end? Not too sure, but can he make that gap to mitigate the 2 penalties that he's got so far in the Grand Prix? If he could win this race as a reserve, could do it for his prospects of getting a full-time drive, surely, in the Formula PlayStation League in Division 1, as Vapor King is in the pits again, and it's a change of front wing. It goes from bad to worse for King in the Haas, and away he goes. Jack Prentice just at the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Excuse me. But he is P16 and 10 seconds. Stefano in the Racing Point. So a really disappointing start to the season for King, as it has been for Buck, as well, as we rejoin Desinio in between the 2 Alfa Romeos. Just ahead of them is Reese. Well, having overtaken Bazooka Jones, a little bit stuck at the moment behind Katsu. He's in a bit of a DRS strain right now. Is the Williams driver, started P2. Virtual safety car deployed. So somebody somewhere has probably come a cropper. I'm not too sure who though. But we do have a safety car, a virtual safety car deployed in this Singapore Grand Prix. There's Vapor King, just gone on to a new set of softs, and he's also gone on to, I believe, his 3rd front wing of the Grand Prix. What he and Jack Prentice really need now more than anything is a full safety car. But green flags again, back underway here in Singapore, Marina Bay Street Circuit, lap number 9 of 31. Jack Prentice has just had a penalty for multiple warnings. And look at Reese just eyeing up Katsu, putting his wing mirror up as they go through the old Singapore sling. Not quite able to get ahead of him. I always used to think, interesting fact here, not that anybody's going to be too interested, that the Singapore sling drink was named after the corner when I was young. Don't ask me why. It's down the inside goes Bazooka Joe on Reese, trying to get that position back. Reese manages to stay ahead. Is that going to compromise Bazooka Joe on the exit? Here comes Desinio. Does he get ahead? No, he doesn't. Has to stay behind for the time being. Thank goodness that interrupted my Singapore sling story. It probably wasn't even that good. And Desinio managing to stay ahead of Sam for the time being. Elian still behind the 2nd Alfa. Very good battle. A very good train going on. TDB into pits for Renault. There he is. So on the soft tyre right now. And is that another set of the car? Yes, it is. So soft dots for TDB. So he's he's actually still going for the 2-stop and probably trying either go to the medium to the end or towards the end of the Grand Prix. He's made those tyres go for 10 laps in this race as well. That a few of those laps were done under the safety cars. Out of the pits he comes, right with Lorna Lamb, and that was very nearly Hulkenberg and Massa all over again. Lorna Lamb right behind the Renault. This is Renault Power versus Renault Power. And on towards the DRS straight we come. Matty says, is it going to rain? I don't know. It might do. Hopefully. Down the inside goes Lord Alarm, trying to get past TDB. Little bit of contact. Wide goes the Renault. Rejoins the circuit. Goes back down the inside of the McLaren. And gets the place back. That's really, really good racing between those two. A little bit of contact, but they gave each other just enough room to get through cleanly. TDB, that's really important for his prospects of winning this Grand Prix. Could not afford to get stuck behind the McLaren of Lord Alarm for any longer than that. So that was a really vital move from him. So we rejoin this battle. Vapor Trench just in front of Katsu. It's all very, very close. That's actually a very good point that Matty's just made soft. So yeah, maybe it will. But yeah, you never know. But then in that instance, not stick on a set of the harder tyres and then just wait it out until the rain comes. Who knows? Who knows? It might rain. Still got 21 laps left, so you never know what's going to happen. Hopefully, we'll get some more drama, whether it be in the shape of rain or otherwise. Between now and the end, it's oh, there we go. There it is. There's Grant. We've just had our first drop. So the first drops of rain now as here comes Castle. Goes inside now, Vapor Trench, and goes down the inside and gets on towards 7 in the DRS straight. And it's up to P4. Trixky, teammate, up in P3. The two Red Bulls running very, very well. As it's slightly wide goes Castle as he adapts. All the drivers now adapt to the track. All of a sudden getting just a little bit wetter. Decinio just behind Bazooka Joe, but still can't quite get ahead. Sam as well trying to take advantage of these two squabbling. And of course what this rainfall is going to do, or rainfall, that's the word, isn't it? Rainfall. What that's going to do, it's there's a bit of side-by-side action as well with Reese and Trent. Reese gets ahead of Vapor Trench. They're having a P5 now in the Williams. Meanwhile, Decinio, can he finally get ahead of Bazooka Joe? I don't know. Yes, he can, but they're still side-by-side. And he's ahead. And Decinio manages to get that position done. So finally, after a few laps behind, Decinio manages to get himself up at P7. And very nearly gets past Vapor Trench as well. Decinio, the winner, last time out, up to P7 now in Singapore as the rain begins to fall. Just had the first foray onto intermediate tyres, so that rain hasn't just come, it's absolutely obliterated the circuit by the looks of it, because the slick runners are now really struggling. And go Vapor Trench and Sam. Is that a gamble that's going to pay off? Is it too early? Who knows, really? But, well, there's TRT James. He's got a... well, yeah, he's really struggling for grip, isn't he? In the point, he's just lapped his teammate Stefanio. It was, sadly him running all the way down in P17. So, well, James started on the mediums, and he probably was quite aware that there was going to be some rain in this Grand Prix, because he's made those mediums go all the way from the start to now. So he probably was anticipating a bit of weather coming our way, and this is going to be his first stop of the Grand Prix. He's got to make it round to the pits first, of course, which is going to be difficult. Oh no! Oh, as wide goes his teammate Stefanio, and he's just hit the wall. He's having to reverse back out, and what has been an absolutely shocking day for him is getting a lot worse now, unfortunately. But it is now raining, so you just never know. And he's retired from the sessions. I was going to say you never know if it could save his race, but no, there's no saving that because he's now retired. It's the second Prix and a virtual safety car deployed, which is perfect for TRT James, because this now means that he can lose a lot less time in the pits, although just as I say that, he's serving a penalty just before his pit stop. Onto the intermediate tyres he goes then. So too for Nuth, who's just got a penalty meanwhile for Ferrari. Trixky as well into the pits, but he's had to wait for his teammate Kasu to get out. Oh, that's a real shame for Trixky. He's going to be living with that, isn't he? And they've also got a new front wing ready, so he's made some contact somewhere in the Red Bull. And instead of listening to the driver, I'm just going to say everyone's in. Everyone's coming to the pits for some intermediate tyres. I think that's just the easiest way of saying it now. Is that there's no point listing the drivers. They're all in. It's inters for everyone. As away goes Cobalt. And this is interesting now. Who's going to pace in the wet? Who's going to deal with these conditions the best? Who's going to master the rain better than everybody else? And of course, will it get to the stage where we have to go from inters to wets? Generally on the F1 games, it takes quite a lot of rain to make that switch from inters onto the wet compound tyres, but you never know. we may yet see the blue-walled tyres with us this evening. Used to see, well, we didn't really see it, but we did have some blue-walled stick tyres as well once upon a time. It was the Super Hards in 2018, which I don't know if anyone can remind me in the comments. I don't think they actually made an appearance in 2018. I know the Hypersofts did a couple of times because qualifying in Monaco was always going to be interesting with those. I don't think we ever saw the blue-walled Super Hards in 2018. Quite sad, actually. But anyway, we may yet see the blue-walled wets between now and the end. Lap 13 of 31. So still a long, long way to go in this Grand Prix. The thing about Singapore is that you look at the lap counter as you're driving and you think, oh, really? I've only done 13 laps. But James, as a result of that virtual safety car, has been able to come into the pits and essentially completely mitigate. Well, yeah, he's mitigated the penalties because he served the penalties as he was waiting, and he's now out 17 seconds in the lead. And what a story this would be. It's his first appearance in season 2, his 5th appearance since the start of season 5 in the Formula PlayStation League, just as a reserve driver. And well, this Singapore Grand Prix, as Matty has just correctly said, barring any dramas, any crashes from himself, and of course any safety cars between now and the end, they should have this in the bag. But we're going to have another safety car, aren't we? Aren't we? Surely. I think we are. Kasu, P3, Pazoka Joe now second. As all of this, and Desinio has been nerfed really a little bit by all this. He hasn't really lost many positions, but you look at Pazoka Joe, and flashes out. The Renault is out of the Grand Prix. Where's that happened? So I imagine he's probably crashed somewhere. I'm just not too sure where. There's Jack Prentice. He's just gone past him. I'm really not too sure where that's happened. Vapor King, yeah, sadly, he will need a safety car, as will Jack Prentice, really, to save their races. But faster the rest out of the Singapore Grand Prix. Took a qualifying and coming into the race, sadly, is now out of the running. TDB in the other Renault just gets past Lord Lab, so the Renault ahead of the McLaren. These two were battling pretty well. Oh, thank you, Matt. He said Fashion retired in the pits, which was the reason for the yellow flags. Yeah, TDB was battling with Lord Lab just after his pit stop, and yeah, he's now gotten ahead of him yet again after it stops for the Inters. You can see how quick he is as well. He's really gotten away from that McLaren, hasn't he? And is now chasing after the McLaren of Desinio, who, if he is to repeat his successes of the Italian Grand Prix, is probably going to need something quite special between now and the end, because James has now got a nearly 21 second lead. Vapor Trent joined this battle meanwhile, and look how close he is to Kasu. There's no DRS, but this is still a slipstream opportunity. And he's now tucked in behind the Red Bull. This is going to be the chance for Trench to take P3, get himself on the podium in the McLaren. Not yet. Has to stay behind for the time being. Rest behind in the Williams. Started P2, up to P5 now after the early pit stop from the safety car. And in the end, really, well, I was asking the question, has he, is that gamble going to pay off going on to a new set of tyres that early in the Grand Prix? And sadly for him, because of the rain that has since hit us, it hasn't really done him any favours whatsoever in P5. But still, as you can see, very much in that conversation. He's got Trench, Kasu and Bazooka Joe all in front of him. But Joe really here is creating a bit of a trilly behind him. And that's going to help the racing no end, really. As we've got Vapor Nuth and Sam joining into this train as well. I say Sam, he's actually 5 seconds back. And Reed here will be more than aware that he has Nuth not far behind him. It's probably not intimidating feeling in the world, having the world champion just behind him. So he'll want to get ahead of Trench as quickly as he possibly can. And there's Desinio, and he's being passed by Elian in the Mercedes. So Desinio now down to P12. So Oh, he's made a mistake somewhere because he's just gone down P12 from P8. And has he lost his front wing? I think he might have done. I think he might have taken some front wing damage, or has he not? I can't really see. But he's clearly made some mistakes somewhere to senior, because he's now fallen outside of the points. So, well, from hero to, you could say, nearly zero here in Singapore. And he's going to come into the pits now. So I think he has damaged his front wing in that Mercedes car. That's a nightmare for Decenio. Highs of Italy to the lows of Singapore. Into the pits as well as TDB. So the Renault's come in as well, and he's changing too. I just wonder, was there contact on TDB? Because they weren't far away, were they? TDB Decenio at quite a vast rate of knots. So I wonder, and knots probably not too far away. It's raining quite a lot now. I just wonder if those two came together. They must have done, because they're both in the pits with damage. Oh, what would have happened there? We'll find out later on in the Discord exactly what happened there. Bazooka Joe, meanwhile, still holding up Kasu. Trent still behind him. Trench now, is this a chance? Oh, he's gone for the move. Oh, very, very close to the back of the Red Bull. It was a bit of a half move from Trent, but it might have set him up well, actually, on the exit. He's got the sitting now on the Red Bull of Kasu. No, not quite able to get ahead of him just yet. It's so difficult to judge, particularly in the wet, how much grip you're going to have going into some of the braking zones as Kasu negotiates the chicane. And really, he wants to close up the Bazooka Joe, but he's busy at the minute, fighting off Trent behind him. Joe doing an excellent job holding on to second place, and he's now 23 seconds behind the racing. And that Racing Point reserve out front, he's not bad, is he? He's pretty good, I think. Not a bad driver, that one. Excellent Grand Prix so far from him. Nuth is... well, he's still just over a second behind Reese. Hasn't quite made the inroads that I guess we might have expected. As they exit turn 3. And will there be a change of position now? Kasu's done well to back up Joe. And he's very, very close there from Wally. This is going to be the answers through the flat out turn 6. Go into the left of turn 7. Joe goes defend. Kasu goes outside. Surely he can't. Oh, he's gone off the track. He comes back on now, goes down the inside. Bazooka Joe leaves him enough room. There's a little bit of Joe now got inside and stays ahead of Cass, but now he runs wide. Cass, the place in the Red Bull. Down the inside of him. Can he keep the car on the right? But he runs a bit wide, manages to keep the position, and up to second place goes Kasu. It was a matter of time, really, until that move happened, because Bazooka Joe was being so much by those drivers behind, and finally the pressure has cracked open the Alfa Romeo as Trench now looks to get ahead as well. Reese just behind these two, hunting a podium, as is Nuth. Sam's actually fallen further behind in the Alfa Romeo. And Trench here, if he wants to get second place, is going to have to try and get ahead of Joe very quickly, because Kasu's now starting to escape down the road in the Red Bull. 25.5 seconds now is the gap. Can Kasu close that? Is he quick enough? James here. But even if he is, he'll need to be... because that's a big... to try and overturn between now and the end of the running here in Singapore. Trench. Has he got the run on Joe? No, he hasn't. Not close enough just yet into turn 1. Paper Nuth has managed to make some pretty good inroads on Reese towards turn 1 there. And in that Ferrari, can he start to gain some places, gain some positions? He's ahead of the championship leader, Decenio, who is down in P15 now after that incident. So really, both himself and, well, himself, Vapor King, Jack Prentice and TDB are all hoping for a safety car, because Decenio is 21 seconds behind Vapor King. So sadly for him, that incident in which his front wing is probably, I say probably, it is Singapore, it might have cost him a chance at scoring any points here. And what a fall from grace that is after winning. Just last race in Italy as Trench has a look at Bazooka Joe. Still not close enough just yet. He went for the move down the inside here. Just a couple of laps ago on the Red Bull of Kasu. Not close enough to do so this time. Again, has to just stick behind the Alfa Romeo. The longer, of course, he has to stay behind him, the more pressure he's going to fall under from east behind in the Williams. As they exit turn 14 in towards 15 through the chicane of 16 and 17. Slightly wide goes Bazooka Joe. Now in towards this left-hander of 18. It's difficult at the best, but it's wet as well. So easy to get it wrong. And it's oh so. And surely he can just sneak through this final couple of corners of the run on the Alfa Romeo. No, not quite. And actually, both tracks to Joe, really. Reese, though, not quite close enough for the move just yet. Sam, 3.5 seconds. Hope points in his second race. Elliott as well, just inside the points in the McLaren. And a lot of drivers getting penalties for track limits. As here comes Vapor Trench. He's got the run now of Bazooka Joe through turn 6 in towards 7. No, Joe manages to brake late enough to cancel out the move, but he goes slightly wide, and Trench here now it's going to go to the inside, puts his McLaren there, little bit of contact again, loses the back end. Is that the chance for Reese to go down the inside in the Williams? It certainly is, but there's more contact and Reese has to just slam the brakes on to avoid spinning that car out. So tough to get cars side by side through there, and Reese and Trench both having to just check themselves and make sure they don't crash more than get a move done. But Vapor Trench is once again very close to the Alfa Romeo into turn 13. Not quite close enough to make a move stick, but he's got a good exit. Has to just control the rest. Has a couple of goes at getting his foot on the noisy pedal, and has to stick behind him through turn 14. It's so difficult to set a move up, even in the wet, because of the braking zones and just how difficult it is to get the car stopped when you go for a move down the inside. I can tell you that Kasu isn't quicker than James. It's now 27 seconds the lead out front. Oh, wide goes Joe, and oh, surely not. Trench goes round the outside of him, and they're side by side again in towards the chicane. He goes off the track, has to give the place back. He's not going to be able to keep that one. Surely has to slow down and give that position back to Bazooka Joe, you'd think. Ooh, well, I have to say, Trench there is running himself at a serious risk of being given a penalty post-race by the stewards, because even though that was marginal, Joe was the one on the inside, and Vapor Trench very clearly went off the track and overtook him. So I would think there that he's going to pick up a penalty for that one. You understand the frustration, of course, but that was an illegal overtake in every sense of the word from the McLaren driver. Reese now is the next one to Harry Bazooka Joe. Let's hope that if he gets a move done, it gets done nice and cleanly. Meanwhile, behind Elian, just behind the second Red Bull of Trixie. Trixie has his teammate Kasu up in P2, while he is battling in the fringes of the points so far in this Grand Prix. Got some yellow flags in Sector 2, meanwhile. Oh, that's Sam in the Alfa Romeo, who's just lost a lot of positions. So, yeah, that's him now, falling down the order. So, once again, costing somebody some positions. A real frustration there for Sam, outside of the points by that one. And that promotes Elian to P9, Kobart now to P10 in 8th place. And 4.3 seconds behind Lord of Lamb in the McLaren in front. We'll keep an eye on that gap to see if that gets any smaller or any bigger, as Elliott looks to get ahead of the Red Bull. Kasu, incidentally, were also teammates at McLaren last season, and it was always a very, very tight battle between those two. They outfight each other in the 10 races, but Kasu taking the spoils with in the races outrace his teammate 6 times over the course of the... Oh. Scary for Trixie as he recovers to the racing line. Really struggling for grip now, and the Red Bull runs slightly wide. Elliot now surely in the Ferrari is going to have the chance to get ahead of the Red Bull as Lorna Lamb comes into the pits for McLaren. And what's that for? Is that for a set of wet compound tyres? It could well be. Well, it's a change of front wing and it's still intermediates for him. Sam's into the pits as well, and it's inters as well for him. Jack Prentice in the Alpha Tauri was coming to the pits, and he's gone on to the wets. So, well, at this point, Jack is outside of the points. He was obviously not in any position to be scoring any points this evening, so he might as well take some sort of a gamble and go for some sort of strategical... strategical... I don't know what the word is. Roll with the dice, shall we say. Took me a very long time to come out with that one. That's embarrassing. He's about to be lapped as well by Kasu in the Red Bull. 28 seconds now is the gap for James out front. I've been tempting fate to have another safety car and not have. But if you're James, if you're supporting James in this Grand Prix, you're hoping there won't be one. And really, into the wall. So I can literally tell you that the move off the wets wasn't a good idea. He's gone into the wall at turn 18 on the wet compound of tyre. Oh no. And he reverses back onto the track, and well, it was already looking like a pretty bad race as into the wall he goes yet again as he rejoins the circuit. Oh dear. Well, that's gone horribly wrong for Jack Prentice, who it's a good thing his car's ghosting, and fair play to him, he's carrying on, he's not giving up, and he's still going. So it was oh, he spun again. Oh, I'm gonna move away from Jack. I'm gonna spare him the embarrassment and move on to James. Yeah, well, it was a brave move onto the wets. You don't blame him because he was running outside of the points anyway. He wasn't going to be scoring any points regardless, so he might as well have just done something. And he did something, and it didn't work. It only served to put him into the barrier. So I've did it before. That turn 18 has certainly caught people out in the past, and it's caught Jack out there. Albeit it was on the wrong. So it's not much of a surprise, you would probably say. Koval into the pits, fresh set of I was about to say mediums. It's not mediums. Fresh set of intermediates on the car for him. Lorna Lamb up to P10, and the virtual safety car is deployed because Jack Prentice is now out of the race. I would have thought he would have done that about a minute earlier, but fair play to him. He tried to carry on. He tried to keep going. You cannot fault that. But he is now out of the Grand Prix. Becomes the 4th retirement for this evening's Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. Round number 2 of Season 6 in the FPSL. And James into the pits. He might as well. He's got a 32-second lead as he comes in. So somehow, I don't think this safety car is going to cost him the lead of the Grand Prix. I don't think it will. And it's another set of inters on for him as well. The virtual safety car ends just as he exits the pit box. And in towards the pit exit he comes now. It's a tricky pit exit in its first couple of races in 2009. The pit exit actually used to feed out just before turn 1. But the organisers realised that was probably a bit dangerous as you had cars going into the apex of turn 1 at that point with cars coming out of the pits. It wasn't the best idea. So they then moved it to go through turn 2 and exit in turn 3. Which isn't that much better because then we saw Hulkenberg and Massa come to blows as well in 2015, I believe it was, that they crashed. As into the pits now comes Williams, and Trixie's out. Trixie out of the Grand Prix in the Red Bull. And what has happened to the Red Bull driver? Has he retired in the pits as well, or has he come a cropper somewhere else? He must have retired in the pits for Red Bull. I'm not sure what's happened there for Trixie. But that's the Red Bull out of the Grand Prix. So one Red Bull running up in P2 and one now out of the race. Not going to score any points in Singapore this evening. what this has done is put Casu just under 5 seconds behind James. But of course, it's pretty trivial what the gap is. James is on fresh tyres now, compared to 9-lap-old Inters for Casu. And they'll take him through to the end of this Grand Prix. Barring, of course, the safety car. How many times do I need to say safety car before there is actually a safety car? I think Codemasters are playing me here. We've had quite a few chances for one, really. Hasn't materialised yet. Decenio is now P13 as a result of all this. You never know if anyone has any more dramas between now and the end, then Decenio could well luck himself into some points. But Vapor King and Sam are just in front. Well, I say just in front. He's 20 Vapor King, and then a further 10 seconds behind Sam. So 11, I should say, behind Sam. So it's, yeah, really turned out to be a bad race. He made that mistake. Well, he might not have done it. He made contact, I believe, with TDB. There's the Renault driver. Those two both coming into the pits for a front wing change. Decenio certainly came out the worst because he's now running way down the order, but TDB in P8 now for Renault. But started on pole, let's not forget. And I did say that there's been 8 wins from pole and 4 from outside the front row, none from second. And there you go. James, who qualified very well in 3rd place on the medium tyres, up into P1. Elian into the pits now for Ferrari. Another set of Inters on the car for him. This will put him, we'll still put him comfortably in P8 actually, because Lord Alam is 20 or X amount of seconds behind him. It will be pretty close actually as he comes out of the pits. Where is the McLaren? There he is into turn 3, and he does get ahead. So yeah, what am I talking about? Lord Alam does get ahead of Elian as the Ferrari comes out of the pits. So but Elian now on very fresh tyres, so he should be able to close up to the McLaren and get that position back pretty quickly for 8th place. Behind them is Cobalt, rounding out the points playing positions at the moment. Reese in P6 in the other Williams. 6 seconds now the gap between James and Casu out front as we stick with this battle. The Ferrari just behind the McLaren, with the Williams just behind as well. 3 very historic names in Formula 1. And 3 different power units as well, of course. Renault power in the McLaren, Ferrari power in the Ferrari, unbelievably. And Mercedes power in the Williams. Renault power here has taken 4 wins, with, of course, the Red Bull team and the Renault team in 2008 with Fernando Alonso, and then, of course, with Sebastian Vettel in 2011, 2012 and 2013. Ferrari power has won this race once. That was with Fernando Alonso in 2010, the 3rd instalment of this race. And Mercedes power has taken 5 wins here, with Lewis Hamilton for McLaren in 2009, and then, of course, the Mercedes victories with Hamilton and Rosberg. Valtteri Bottas has yet to win this Grand Prix for Mercedes. May well do next year. Of course, no Singapore Grand Prix on the calendar for this year, which is sad to see among, of course, the coronavirus pandemic. Hope you're all staying safe out there. Thank you for watching. Once again, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us for this evening's Singapore Grand Prix. Into turn 1 goes Elliott. Just trying to set up a move here on Lord Alam. Sam is actually closing a little bit now on Cobalt. So we'll see if the Alfa Romeo can steal just a single point in this race. Elian now, as they exit turn 5. Is this the chance now to get ahead of Lord Alam? He's in the slipstream. He's got the run on the McLaren. Is he close enough for the move? He's going to try and go round the outside of him. Alam very nicely defends the inside and keeps the car on the track on the exit, and manages to keep that McLaren ahead of the Ferrari for the time being. But this is all allowing Cobalt to get very close. As slightly wide goes Lord Alam. It allows Elian to slightly put his nose in there, but nothing doing really. Four winning drivers at Grand Prix: Alonso, Vettel, Hamilton, Rosberg. The 4 winners here. And also 4 different constructors as well, with Ferrari, Renault, Red Bull. Excuse me, 5. McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault. 5 constructors, I say, winning the Grand Prix. My apologies. My research was wrong. I said 4, and it was actually 5. And I mentioned it enough times as well that Fernando Alonso won for Renault. I still just didn't take that into account. Anyway, different constructors in this Grand Prix. McLaren and Ferrari have both done that. Williams unable to do that so far. Sam now really, really close to Cobalt. Meanwhile, Vapor Nuth is within a second of Bazooka Joe. Nuth, of course, taking over from Joe at Ferrari for this year. Or for this season, I should say. It's Elliott around the final 2 corners. Trying to set up a move on the McLaren in front. Not able to get close enough into turn 1 just yet. Just puts himself in the wing mirror of the McLaren. Makes sure that Lord Alam is fully aware that the Ferrari is poised and ready for an overtaker. Slightly wide goes Alam. That's going to just provide Elliott with the opportunity to get closer towards turn 5. Oh, he's got a penalty though for track limits. Has the Ferrari of Elliott. As now through turn 6 they go. Still not close enough, is he, to the McLaren? Has to sit behind for another few corners yet. Frustratingly for him, can Lord Alam hold on to P8? Showed really good resolve in Italy, even when he was falling down the order. And he's in Singapore for round number. Down towards turn 10 we go. The left into the right of turn 12. And in towards this left-hander of turn 13. Swinging it through. Whoa, very close to the wall against Hellion. I thought he was going to collide with a barrier for just a second there, but he keeps his car out of trouble. And meanwhile, Bazooka Joe is into the pits for Alfa Romeo with just a few laps to go of the Grand Prix. That's a bit of a surprise, actually. I didn't think he was going to have, well, maybe a bit of trouble, but I thought he was going to be able to make it to the end with so few laps to go. But he's into the pits. New set of inters onto the car. That promotes Nuth now up to P4. Reese is now 5th in the Williams as a result of that. Let's just see how far Bazooka Joe falls down the order. He will be ahead of Lord Alam, P7 for the Alfa Romeo, but was running P4 before his pit stop. Could he have made those tyres last, or were his tyres really that dead that he just simply couldn't make it? Well, clearly he felt as though it was the latter, and that those tyres just would not make it any further into this Grand Prix. So out in P7 is the Alfa Romeo car. That means that Vapor Nuth P4, 14, nearly 15 seconds behind Vapor Trench. So doesn't look as though he's going to have a sniff at a podium between now and the end. And it certainly doesn't look as though anyone's going to have a sniff of P1 as James continues to dominantly lead this Singapore Grand Prix out front. Elliott still stuck behind the McLaren of Lord Alam. Meanwhile, Sam is still behind Cobalt. So 2 battles going on the same part of the racetrack. But at the minute, everybody holding station. Sam aiming for that final points paying position. Cobalt looking to hold on to it and potentially take advantage of the battling going on ahead of him between the Ferrari and the McLaren. In towards turn 13. Elliott gets the car stopped and once again just has to control that oversteer, control the wheel spin. Alam getting a very good exit out of turn 13, able to stay ahead of the Ferrari for now. This is a race that always just lasts so much longer. 20 minutes past 9 in the UK now. And by this point normally would actually be wrapped up here, but even on the stream. The stream would normally be finished by now, but we're still racing with a few laps to go. So this Singapore race always just goes on a bit longer. Oh, a little bit of contact, and Cobalt has just lost his front wing. So he's clipped the wall on the exit of turn 18. He's chipped off a big bit of that front wing. Has to pit, surely. No, he's going to try and stay out, but this is going to be a chance now for Sam because Cobalt's going to have no grip whatsoever. Runs very wide out of the final corner. And that, as a result, allows Sam to fly past him into P10. And Cobalt, with a really sloppy error, has just cost himself a point here in Singapore. What a shame for him. And the American, by the looks of it, is going to have to walk away from Singapore round number 2 with no points to his name. And no points to his name from Italy as well, after he crashed early on in that race, and contact with the barrier has put paid to his points efforts here too, unless of course there's some incidents in front of him. Or a safety car. But I have to say, a safety car now would just take us through to the end of the Grand Prix, actually, as slightly wide goes Alarm, but yeah, not really any sort of opportunity for Elian to get ahead of him in towards turn 10. Let me know, actually, your thoughts on the Singapore thing. I've slated it quite a lot this evening as we've gone through the action. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Singapore thing. Was it good? Was it bad? Were you happy they got rid of it? Or you just sat there thinking, what the hell is a Singapore thing apart from a cocktail? I don't know. Let me know. What did you think of it? I think it's better as it is. It was taken out after the 2012 race, and it was turned into what it is now for 2013. Which was Sebastian Vettel's penultimate victory here in Singapore. One, of course, in 2015 with Ferrari. That was the scene of Mercedes' issues with the underground rail network that runs underneath the circuit. It was actually playing havoc with the electric systems for Mercedes. So there you go. Even the very, very best have their issues sometimes. Harry says that the Singapore thing is nicer to drive on the games, but it's not as entertaining. Yeah. It has to be said, it doesn't really provide any more of an overtaking opportunity, but it looks a lot nicer. That's for sure. Yeah, still not a heavy braking zone, but yeah, nice to drive, says Harry. Actually, yeah, by the looks of it, it doesn't really look like it's nice to drive, but yeah, I'm just, there's a reason I'm a commentator, of course, because I'm not very good at the F1 games. It's the only reason I'm here. As Elian still tries to get ahead of the McLaren, still having no luck getting past Alam. As they exit turn 9, he's closer than ever down towards turn 10, but yeah, once again, no room for the pass into there. Let me know as well your driver of the day from the Singapore Grand Prix in a race that really in the wet has kind of sizzled out, really, has to be said. I don't want to take anything away from James, by the way. I'm not trying to do that. He has driven an absolutely exceptional race out front so far, and fully deserves the race victory. But yeah, it hasn't provided the overall excitement that we've expected in the latter stages here. That incident for Cobalt has now put him behind Desinio, so he's up to P12. Vapor King up to P11, as here comes Elian. No, still not able to take advantage. It takes a brave driver to go down the inside of turn 18. But yeah, to my original point, let me know your driver of the day from the Singapore Grand Prix. Is it James out front, who led this spectacularly from third on the grid? Is it Kasu in the Red Bull? Let me know. Here comes Elian. This is a chance now. Surely he's got a really good run out of the final corner. Oh, and he just backs out of it by the looks of it. Although wide goes Lord Alam, and now Elian, no, still doesn't go for it. Still can't get ahead of the McLaren. That was a golden opportunity, surely there for the Ferrari, and he didn't take it. Real surprise there for Elian, who just seemed to show a little bit of tentativeness, if that's a word, and not exactly throwing caution to the wind, but that was a real chance. That was a golden chance for Elian to take 8th place off Alam, and he didn't take it. And Alam will be feeling quite fortunate that that mistake, a couple of errors really, didn't cost him the position. Meanwhile, TDB is just behind Reese. So the Renault chasing down the Williams. These two started 1 and 2. TDB on pole, Reese in second. Reese now P5, TDB down in P6, so it's a race that really hasn't worked for either of these two. Yeah, the safety cars and the wet weather really not playing to TDB's advantage, and Reese really never quite recovered from that early pit stop from the lap 1 safety car, which was a gamble that simply didn't pay off for him. But there is James in towards turn 9 for the Racing Point driver. Standing in for Shea this evening. Shea was given a race ban deliberately taking out suit those two in Monza. And James has stepped in, stuck the car in place, and now he's going to take it to 3. Easy, really. Step the car and just take the win. Meanwhile, Vapor Trench has been passed by Nuth. What's happened here? Oh, he's got a puncture. It's a left rear puncture for Trench. Oh, it's a disaster. He was on for a podium here in Singapore. A dramatic late puncture has... Oh, it's ended his chance of a podium, potentially his chance of a points, because that is a very, very long way, and he's half spinning the car. The rain has gone back in, and it's dry conditions again. DRS has been enabled. Not that that really matters all that much, although it could allow Elliott the chance to get ahead of Lord Alam. Meanwhile, behind them, Trench is now losing all sorts of positions. It's not working for him. TDB's out of the Grand Prix for Renault. He's ended up out of this race. But now, here comes TRT James. Oh, TDB, you just saw the Renault there out of the Grand Prix. But TRT James wins the Singapore Grand Prix. What an exceptional race from the Racing Point driver. But, well, I said that this race didn't give us the drama towards the end. It certainly has done. Trench with the puncture. And now, with TDB spinning out of this race and sideways into the barrier, it's allowed... Well, it's going to allow Lord Lambert to P7, Elliott to P8, and let's not forget as well, Trench has a puncture. So all of the drama happening on the very last lap of the Singapore Grand Prix. Here comes Elliott, he's got DRS, he's got the run on the McLaren. Does he go for the move into turn 14? No, he doesn't. Bazooka Joe's got ahead of Trench. Where is the McLaren? Where's Trench? There he is. Oh, he might make it. He might make it. This is like Lightning McQueen all over again. Like Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone all over again. He's got a 3-second time penalty, so I think he might end up behind the guys behind him anyway. Reese has finished P4, Bazooka Joe in P5. Trench, as he rounds the final couple of corners, coaxes the car up towards the line. Does manage to take P6 on track. That's a remarkable effort from Trench. Picked up the puncture, and now, oh, here comes Elliott. He's down the inside, he's got him. Brilliant move at the end of the race from Elliott to get ahead of Lord Alam. And he, it's awful for Alam right at the end. They both lose out to Sam, actually. Sam taking advantage of penalties for both of them to get up to P7. And Decinio, whose race was ruined just before, is up to P10. So after all of this, TDB out of the Grand Prix, and he's now up to P10 in this Grand Prix. Takes the final point of the Grand Prix for Mercedes. And after all of that, after his race went completely upside down, he manages to come home to take a point. Trench's puncture puts him down to P6. Penalties for Elliott and Alam put them behind Sam. But right at the end of the Grand Prix, Elliott making the move on Alam to get up into what eventually turned out to be 8th place here in Singapore. A remarkable Grand Prix, a brilliant race to watch from start to finish. What drama on the final lap. Punctures, crashes, overtakes, penalties, everything you could possibly wish for out of a league race has happened here at the Singapore Airlines Singapore Grand Prix. It is TRT James on the top step. He wins in Singapore. And what a crazy race. Nuth ends up on the podium in his first outing in Season 6, but James, the stand-in for the band Shea, manages to get that racing point on the top step of the podium. Petition for James to get a full-time drive? Well, just maybe. What a race from him. What a victory. It is James then who takes the win in the Racing Point. Kasu in P2 from 18th on the grid for Red Bull. What a drive from him. Vapornuth in P3 for Ferrari. Reese in 4th. Bazooka Joe finishes P5. Vapor Trench in 6th for McLaren. Sam in 7th place after penalties for Elian and the Lamb. And that brilliant battle between those two going right into the final corner. Decinio P10 somehow taking the final point for Mercedes. Vapor King down in P11. And TDB, Cobalt, Trixky, Jack Prentice, Fashion, Stefanio and Buttonsback all retiring from the Grand Prix. TDB actually was classified, but he's out of the points, so it doesn't really matter anyway. And Vapor Trench, of course, with that puncture on the final lap, lost those positions, lost out on a podium finish, but still managed to hold on to P6. He did very well to get that car round the rest of the lap and into the points still, but so unfortunate for him. But it does mean for Nuth that he ends up on the podium. But it's James after an exceptional Grand Prix. A brilliant drive from 3rd on the grid. The reserve driver takes victory in Season 6.